The purpose of this video is to give you a general overview of the financial, more specifically the general ledger capabilities of Business Central and how to review transactions at the GL level and drill back into subsidiary transactions as well. Once again, I'm logged in as Alan Steiner, the CFO of Kronos USA. And where we're going to start our review is on our chart of accounts. So at the top, I'm going to go to my bookmark for chart of accounts, and we're going to go directly into our chart of accounts list. And unlike many other ERP systems that are in the mid-market, Business Central's chart of account entity is really the natural segment of your chart of accounts. Other ERP systems may have a string chart of accounts with multiple segments. Segments may represent departments or revenue channels or revenue groups or so forth. In Business Central, the chart of account entity is actually the natural segment, and then underneath it will utilize dimensions for those additional segments. And in the case of Kronos USA, their primary financial dimensions that they track information on are customer group, which is groupings of their customers for revenue purposes, and then their internal departments. So they budget by revenue by customer group, and they budget expenses by their individual departments. And we'll go into that more in a little bit. But as we look at our chart of accounts, you can see our list of natural accounts, and we have some different types of accounts here. You'll notice that some of them are bold and some of them are not. The ones that are not are specified as posting accounts that you can actually post balances to. But you can also have headers and beginning-end account types in order to sum those accounts that do have balances. So what this list view gives you is basically a trial balance. So I can see from top to bottom, I've got a totaling account on total assets here. So I can see the balance of all these accounts that are underneath assets. And if you look at the totaling account over here, you can actually see what the account range is that's included in this end total. It's account 10001 to 10990. So 1001 to 10990, this entire group right here. And we can go all the way down our trial balance here and see that we get into liabilities. And then we also have this interesting totaling account here, which gives us our current year net income. So if you look over here to the right, we're actually looking at our entire P&L, 4,000 where our revenue starts to 69995, which is where our expenses end. So I'm kind of pulling that up just so I can see a reference of it at the end of my balance sheet. Now, as you've seen with our previous videos, whenever you're in a list view like this, when we have our filter pane open, and I'm going to close it and reopen it here, it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of what we're seeing in the returned list. So I can very quickly, if I want to, filter my totals by a date to actually give me a trial balance for a particular date range. And I'm going to type in a key term here for P4, which is period 4 of the current year. That's just a quick way of creating the restriction of 4/1 through 4/30. So when I do that, you'll see my net change column has now changed, and I'm looking at all of my detail here in my list for just this date range. I could also do this if I wanted to see just my expenses by a particular department. I could go ahead and filter based on department and choose one of those departments that I just showed you from the dimension list. So once I have my list filtered down here, you can see I've got a lot of blue text, and blue text always means show me more about that specific line. So I have some income for period 4 here, some product sales for $14,329. I'm going to go ahead and drill in here. And when I do that, I'm going to get into the debit and credit lines that have hit that account for $4,200, which is product sales. So I'm seeing every single line. And as you look at this, you're seeing a lot of information. Obviously, you're getting the date, which is in period 4 from my filter, but I'm also seeing that this was an invoice. There was my invoice number. I'm seeing that this came from a sales source, and here's the customer and the customer ID. I can even see what order number it originated from. Now, if I don't know the customer name that goes along with the number of C00010, I can just click on it and see this was Wix Services. And down here in my fact box set, this is one line in a journal entry that relates to this invoice document, but I can see all of the other financial distributions that were related to that entry. So I can see the hit to accounts receivable, I can see inventory was relieved, there was some cost of materials, and then of course the income line that I'm looking at here of 4003. Now what I can also do is I can drill in and I can see what other entries relate to this. So if I click on this, if I click on Find Entries here, you're going to notice this is looking at all of the other subledgers in the system, and it's telling me which other subledgers are related to that original source document of an invoice for Wix Services. So I can see there's a posted sales invoice here that I can go to. There were 5 general journal lines. I showed you those over here in the fact box set. And then I have my customer ledger entry here for the receivable purposes. And then, of course, I've got some inventory movement here as well. So I can see what was the inventory quantity that was moved whenever we sold this product to the client. So it gives me a tremendous amount of flexibility in order to see what other entries relate. And I'm going to click on one that maybe has a little more detail. Let's take a look at this one. If I go into Find Entries on this one, you can see I've also got some sales tax entries here too. So if I want to see where there was some sales tax liability for this original invoice, I can drill in directly from the general ledger there. One more note of interest on the general ledger entries is in this area right here, I can see my departments and my customer group codes, which are those 2 financial dimensions that were posted with the transaction. So when I go to build out financial reports, I can kind of slice and dice my revenue based on customer group because with those invoices that were posted for this company here, the School of Fine Art, you'll notice that the customer group code was set to large. That financial dimension will now sum with the rest of my large customers in my financial reports. Now lastly, I'm going to go back to my Roll Center homepage. I'd like to show you how the financial reports are structured and built inside Business Central. This may be familiar to many of you that are coming from a Dynamics ERP such as Navision, Great Plains, or even Solomon, and some Sage products too. If I go to under Finance and I go to Financial Reporting, I'm going to see a list of financial reports. And within these financial reports is something that is very familiar to anyone that's used FRX in the past or Management Reporter. You can see each one of these reports has a row definition as well as a column definition. So let's just take a look at the income statement right here. If I click on this basic income statement, you can see I have some parameters that are at the top, but I basically get an inquiry of the details down here below. So this is a very simple report that's showing a net change. And then I have these row numbers over here on the left and the row references or descriptions here. Notice that this is period 4, just like I was showing you in the drill down from the chart of accounts list. There's my familiar 14,329. But if I actually drill into this and show you more of how this is built, I can go into the row definition and the column definition for this report. So building this is a snap. So if I look at this, notice that there's those row numbers. Now I'm editing the report. You can see that income is totaling all of these GL accounts. So you can see my income product, that 14,000 figure was account number 40200. And you can see I have other formulas that are summing the income. So you can see a total income of P1 through P8. This is P1 through P8. And then I've got my cost of goods sold, gross profit, all of the information that I need to get down to my net income line. So it's just using those chart of accounts and the totaling column. Now, if I had to separate out my rows by different financial dimensions, like the customer group code, well, that's here also. I can go ahead and specify different codes here. If I just want to show my large customers on one line, medium customers on another, small on a third, I can go ahead and set that up inside my financial report. Very simple to create the financial reports that you want inside Business Central. You basically start from scratch and lay them out row by row, column by column. If you look at the column definition for this report, I can now set up all different kinds of column formats. I can set up just net change entries. I can set up year-to-date entries. I can set up custom formulas to show me rolling 12, quarter-to-date, all sorts of things in here to set up the columns exactly how I want them. I could even set up budget columns and calculate variances, or set up previous year columns and calculate variances and so forth. So extremely flexible to handle your reports inside Business Central, utilizing row formats, column formats, and then of course the financial reports themselves.